Hello everyone, welcome to the fourth video in this course Learn HTML, CSS and JavaScript the practical way. If you haven't been following us or haven't checked out other videos, you can go now and check them out. The link will be in the description below. We've built a text editor and animated tab, and today in this particular video we're going to be looking at how to build and create an interactive quiz app using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So let's have a quick preview of the project we are working on. Okay, so right here is a sample of what we're going to work on, the quiz application. So I've added a couple of dummy questions right here so we can answer them. So what the web developer do, okay, build websites, dance tango. Okay, for that I'm going to intentionally pick a wrong answer. What powers a computer? Okay, we have electricity and we have chakra. Okay, I'm going to choose the right answer, which is electricity. The ruler of a country is called President Ukage. Okay, choose a president. How do you identify people from a country using ID cards or via village headbands? Okay, ID cards. And what are the modes of transportations? Air, water, land, train, running on trees using a jutsu. Okay, so I'm going to click on submit, and then we see that it takes us back up here and gives us scores. So this is what we're going to be working on, and it's a very simple um, quiz app. And you can see that immediately you click on submit, this submit button gets disabled here, and until you refresh before you'll be able to actually answer the questions again. So let's get started and see how we can achieve that. So right here is my folder, and I've already opened it in Visual Studio Code. Okay, so the only thing I've done so far is create my style sheet and my JavaScript file and then link them here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create three different sections. So the first section is okay, so the only thing I've done is create the HTML structure and added the CSS file and also the JavaScript file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create three sections. The first is going to be the heading of the page, which is something we have here. So for this part, and then the second part showing the answer, and then the quiz body. So let's see how to do that. So the first part, I'm going to put create a div with a class of quiz heading. So in it there's going to be an h1 tag, which will be your quiz app, or you can put whatever it is you want here. And then secondly, I'm going to create a div with a class of quiz score. Okay, and inside of here I'm going to have let's say a paragraph. So I'm going to put you score 0% of 100. So right here I'm going to put it in a span. So I'm going to put a class. Okay, let's move this here. I'm going to add a class of actual score. Okay, now the body. Now inside of the quiz body there's going to be a form. Okay, we are not sending it to a server, so we're not going to set the action. So since it's purely based on JavaScript, okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to have sections. So okay, so I'm going to create a div. So let's create question sections. Okay, and then I'm going to have a paragraph question one. What do web developers? Then right here I'm going to have a div dot answers, and inside the answer I'm going to have my inputs. So I'm going to use a radio. So we're going to use, so the name is going to be question one. This is what we're going to make JavaScript, and then I'm going to set a value. So the value is going to be equals to either A or B. I'm going to create a label. Okay, a good website, and then I'm going to duplicate these answers since there are going to be two answers. So the value of this will be B, but this will still remain since they are both for question one. And then for these, okay, dance tango. So I'm going to skip forward a bit. So all I'm just going to do is essentially duplicate these questions sections. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to skip forward now. Okay, so essentially all I've just done is duplicated most of these and changed the um some values and the questions. So one thing you should note though is for each questions you have to change the name to question 2, or you can use maybe something else, but we just denote that okay, this is the first question, this is the second question, third question, A to C, and at the end I added a input of this. So what I'm going to um do is, okay, resize this so that I'm going to, okay, so let's bring this here, and then I'm going to go live, open my live server, so to add my CSS file. Okay, so we have things set up, and this is the submit button, and this is the skeleton of our app. So let's get started with the styling. Okay, so for the quiz heading, okay, I'm going to put a padding of, let's say, 50 pixels. Okay, and the text align is going to be center. Okay, so let's reduce this to 40, and then I'm going to come to the H1 inside of it. I want to give it a bit of styling, H1, and then so the color is going to be, okay, the color is going to be paste. Okay, the project, if you remember. Okay, so that is going to have a background color of F5, F6, and F7. So that's a blue, a grayish, so that's a grayish color. And then the next thing we're going to do is add a padding, 20 pixels. Okay, text align, center. Okay, and then I'm going to add a font size. Okay, I'm going to set it to 1.3 rem. So remember we talked about rem and m in the last project. So it's just this rem is relative root element, so 1.3 times the original root font size. So let me increase that to 1.5. Okay, and let's increase the font size here to 4 rem. Let's see what that gives us. Okay, I think I'm okay with that. Okay, so let's make this 1.7, and color. Okay, so the color is going to be the same, which is this, and then the font weight is going to be 600. Okay, let's set it to 500. Okay, then the body, so I'm just going to copy this. Okay, so background color, so we're going to make use of this, and then padding. Okay, so make it 50 pixels, 30 pixels, so that is the top and bottom will be 50, and then the right and left is going to be 30. So let's increase this a bit. Okay, so we want the color. Okay, sorry, color should be white. Okay, and then we're going to go inside the quiz sections. Okay, I'm going to add margin. Okay, let's add a margin of 30 pixels. So this will also add a bit of demarcation with between this. Font size, let's set it to 1.5 rem. Okay, this is looking a bit better, and I could remember there's supposed to be a section here for instruction, so we're going to add here. Okay, instruction. Okay, font size, font weight is going to be 600. Let's make it 7. And then let's add a bit of margin bottom, so let's make it 30 pixels. Okay, things are looking pretty good. And then for the submit button, I'm going to select input. Now for CSS, another selector we can use is selecting the attribute. So I'm going to put type equals to submit. So this will automatically pick this particular input field, which is a submit button, or I could add a CSS class, whichever option I want. So what I'm going to do is down here, okay, I'm going to set the width to 100%. Okay, and the padding 10 pixels. So background color is going to be, so we're going to use these, and then the color, so the color is going to be this. Okay, so let's see how that looks like presently. Okay, font size 1.2 rem, font weight, and let's use bold, and then border. So we use 2 pixels. Solid, and then we're going to make it, okay, let's see how that looks like right now. Okay, then border radius, make it curve a bit, so let's make it 4 pixels. Okay, so I'm going to copy this color here to add it to the border, and then I'm going to add a box shadow. So box shadow, okay, sorry about that, that should be shadow. So we have 1 rem, 1.5 rem, 2 rem, then RGBA 0 0 0, then 0.15. I think that should give me the shadow I need. Okay, yeah, looking pretty good. Then the hover state, so when we hover on it, so we want kind of the opposite should happen. So I'm going to copy this. First, change the cursor to show that yes, we are hovering on something, we are about to select something. Okay, and so I've swapped the values. Let's see how that looks. Okay, to add a bit of I'm going to select all the properties, and then the time frame 3 seconds, then the effects is in out. Okay, so it's a bit better. Now another thing I'm going to do is, okay, not that, what I needed to copy was this. So I'm going to add a bit of styling to the disabled state, so that when it's disabled, it shouldn't be clickable. So there should be a distinction that yes, it's disabled. So I'm going to change this to disabled, and then also when it's disabled and you hover on it, I don't want there to be any, there shouldn't be any change better. Okay, so let's, so we see the effect we have, so let's add that here. Then disabled, yeah, equals to disabled. Okay, yeah, let's I forget this should be changed also. Okay, so the background color, I'm going to set it to a something like AF and 0. Okay, so let's see what that looks like. Okay, box shadow, none, then okay, then the color, want it to remain this. Okay, so this cursor pointer is still showing. Okay, I'm going to, let's use, okay, showing. And oh, one last thing, we want to add our scores, so this we want it to be hidden, so let me increase the font size to 2. Okay, so we want it to be hidden, so what I'm going to do is, okay, and add dot hidden. So we've added an additional class that, okay, when this particular quiz score also has dot hidden, then display none, then opacity 0. Okay, so I'm just going to go right ahead and add it here, so it will be automatically hidden from the start. Okay, I think we're done with the HTML and CSS part, so let's say adding functionality to the quiz application. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select the form itself. So let's get started. I'm going to create a constant. Okay, the name of the constant is going to be the quiz app, which is going to be called, so document dot query selector. So what are we going to use? We can decide to use just the form, or we can create a class for it. Now before that, I have to create the correct answers. Now the answers to all these are on A's, so that is the first one. So what I'm going to do is const, I'm going to create an array. So I'm going to put correct answers. So an array is just a collection of elements. So the first one is going to be, okay, since we are having A's, so a a a a and a. So we've done that. Okay, Now let's have a look at our HTML structure once again. So the first value is A and the second is B, and then we have individual for question 1, 2, etc. So let's keep that in mind and continue. Now the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to add an event listener for our quiz app for our form. So I'm going to put quiz app dot add event listener. Now what this is, you already know, is going to collect accept two parameters. The first one is going to be the event itself, and the second the function that it's going to execute. So I'm going to put submit, that is whenever we click on the submit button. And then the second thing is, now normally we've been using this particular syntax, which has been good so far, but we've not been accepting in our previous projects, we've not been accepting the any parameter. So for here we're going to put E. So the E is standard for the event that is happening. So the first thing I'm going to do is whenever this form is submitted, for example, let's see, we have to remove the disabled. So whenever it's submitted, automatically the way it behaves is it refreshes. So to prevent that, I'm going to just put a dot prevent default. That is the default action it takes. So if I should click on submit now, we see it's not having a page refresh. So the next thing I'm going to do is create a variable. Score is going to be 0. And then we are now going to select the answers that we get from here. So the answers we get. So how do we do that? We're going to come here. Now let me give you an example. The quiz app has already been created. So if I state, you see it is a form. It is already showing that. So if, for example, it returns, now is the second one. So we see that it returned a radio node list. So that's the essence of the name. So when we added the radio button, so we using a name equals to question 5 will enable us to be able to select with JavaScript. Now if I should come here and dot value, now at the present moment it has no value. That's why it's giving us an empty string. So let me select, and if we should send that, automatically it's going to so it's going to give us A. So we can see that in action. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a constant which we're going to name let's say user answer. So we're going to now put it also in an array. So what we're going to be using is quiz app dots. Now remember what we did, question 1 dot value. So this is going to select all of the values sequentially. So I'm going to copy that. So question 1, then the next is going to be question 2, then the next is going to be question 3, then question 4, and then question 5. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to loop through everything. So we've used seen for each in action before, so that's the same thing we're going to use here, just with a little bit of modification. So user answer dot for each. We know we're going to take in a function. So what we're going to do in this case is we're going to have a function right here. Now inside of here we're going to have an argument. The first one is going to be, let's name it answer, and then index. Okay, so I'm going to put a conditional statement here, which is if. Okay, so we have our if block. So what the conditional is going to be is, if answer equals to correct answers, then index. So that means while it's going for each one of them, if each of these answer, any one of them, for example the first one, which is quiz app dot question one dot value, is equals to this, then it should do what is in here, so which is score plus equals 20. So since we have 5 questions, so each of them is going to carry 20 marks each. So let's see that in action. For example, so console.log score. So thank God I still have my console open. So we have build website, which is the only question we've answered, which is the only one that is correct. So when we click on this, it gives us 100. Okay, let's see where the issue comes from. Okay, yeah, just a silly rookie mistake here. So it's when we're comparing conditionals, it has to be either a double equal sign or a triple equal sign for strictly equals to. Okay, so let's try that again. Let's submit. Okay, we've selected 3, so we have 60. So if I should select the wrong answer here and I select the right here, okay, and let's click on submit again, so we have 80. You can see that. So let me select wrong answers all through. Let's see what that gives us now. So it gives us 0, so that means our code is working. So for us to update it, the first thing I'm going to do is, whenever I click on the submit button, okay, so the first thing is we want our score here to actually show up. So we're going to create a new variable also. So const quiz score equals to document dot query select. So we're going to select it. So I think we have a class of quiz score, so let's check that. A class of quiz score. Okay, okay, so what we're going to do is quiz score dot class list dot remove hidden. So that is the first thing. So if I should click on submit, automatically this shows up, but if I should refresh the page, it automatically becomes hidden. Okay, so that's the first thing. And then the second thing is, so quiz score dot query selector. So in that particular quiz score element, so we want to select a child element that has the class of actual score. So if we should look right here, okay, so that's what we used right here. So actual score dot, so we're going to use text content equals, so now I want to update the score in it. What I'm going to make use of is a template string literal. So basically you just use this you use the signs, and automatically you can input both variables and um your normal text, your normal string. So let me give you an example. So if I should put you use the sign to put in variables. So okay, score. Okay, so now let's click on submit and let's see what that gives us. Okay, let's select something and have at least 20%. So now one thing you notice is initially there was um percentage here, but it's not bringing out the percentage. So just to fix that, after this I'm going to add a percentage symbol, and then I can add whatever. So let's say yeah, so I can add a couple of strings. So by the time I click on submit, so it automatically updates it to 20% yeah. So okay, all I'm going to do is remove that. Now another thing we want to do is whenever we um click on submit, it should automatically move to the top. So there is a window function for that, which is scroll through to. So if I should come here to scroll through, all I have to do is give it two parameters, which is the height and width. So where I'm going to, so since I'm going to the top here, all I have to do is give it 0 0. So let's see what that actually does. So whenever I click on submit, automatically comes up here. Okay, so and it updates. So we've actually gotten most of our functionality finished. Now another thing is, which you might have noticed, it updates this live. So and another thing, whenever we click on submit, well, that these values we actually chose earlier are still there. So what I'm going to do is down here I'm going to choose my quiz app, then dot reset. So that's going to reset the form. So whenever I click on submit, okay, whenever I click on submit, so and it goes up, automatically it clears all of the input values. Okay, so that's one. Now for us to actually animate this, okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to set a constant and we're going to use a method called set interval. So what we're going to do is create a constant and we're going to put quiz animation equals to set interval. Okay, so this basically takes in two parameters, which is the first one being a callback function and the second one being the time interval, which is going to repeat that particular function. So let's see an example of that. So if I should say something such as set interval, okay, and then right here I create a function. Okay, I say console, or let's say alert hi, and then okay, sorry, I there. Okay, I'm an annoying pop-up. Okay, so okay, hi there, I'm an annoying pop-up, and then I put in another value which is 2000. So now whenever I click on this, okay, so we have this here. If I should click on OK, okay, every 2 seconds it keeps repeating that. So it does that every 2 seconds. So which is pretty much annoying, right? Okay, so that's basically what this method, what it does. So we're going to make use of these in order to actually um finish up our animation. So I'm just going to clear that out and continue with uncomment this. Okay, so what do we do first? The first thing we're going to do is, okay, we have a function that isn't taking anything. So, and then the second is the amount of time. So let's use 30 milliseconds for now. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to bring this, cut it and bring it here. Okay, so what we'll do is this. So I'm going to cut this and bring it in here. Now I'm going to create another variable here. So let score output equals to 0. Okay, so right here we're going to change it to score output. Now let's see the meaning of what I've just written now. So if I, let's say, okay, here I'm going to comment this out for a while. So I'm going to select president electricity. So that means we should get 2 out of 5. So that's 40%. So if I should click on submit, originally it's in 0%, right? So basically right now is in 0%. So what we want to do is the score output is, it should be increasing within an interval. So there should be an increase until it matches the score. So now when we choose our answer, let's say we got 40, right? So if I should console.log score, now let's submit again. So we have 40, but what it's outputting right here is 0. So we're going to make it that it should keep adding right here, not being distributed where our original score is. And let's see how that works actually. So what I'm going to do is use an if statement. If score output is equals to score, now it's going to stop the animation, it's going to stop increasing. So basically that means, okay, we're going to use a clear interval, which is kind of the opposite of this. So in it we're going to say, okay, which interval do we want to clear? Okay, this one. Though currently, even if I don't put this in here, it should work because it's actually referencing to this particular constant, since it's being, the clear interval method is being called in this constant. But just for good measure, so let's put in the name of the particular set interval we want to clear. So then we use an else statement, else score output plus plus. Okay, so let's see what that gives us. Okay, so we see it's animating. So if you want it to actually be faster, you just have to decrease this value. So let's say, okay, I get 100, build websites using ID cards, okay, water Finland, and let's click on submit. You'll see now, notice the speed right here. Now let me increase this by 10 and okay, make it 100. Now let's go back and click on our submit button. So you see the animation is actually real low. So depending on what you actually want to do, how long you want your users to wait before they can see their scores. But if you want it for the optimal result, I would advise making it somewhere around 30-40. So let's make it 40 and let's see how fast or slow that is. Okay, so it increases. Okay, I think I'm still a bit okay with that, but just for good measure I prefer to use 30. Okay, so and then let's uncomment this. Now submitting this again. Okay, everything works, it's reset. Now don't forget, the last thing is um we don't want to them to actually re-answer the question, so we want to disable this until the refresh or maybe another event fires up. So another a way to do that is we're going to select our button. So I'm going to select, okay, so submit button equals to document dot query selector. So since remember we are selecting using CSS classes, so the same thing I used to style my CSS right here, I can just copy that, put it right here in JavaScript. Okay, so just for good measure you can do something like form, okay, just to show that okay, it's this particular what's it called, your work, you want to select the particular submit button inside of this form, but doesn't matter, it's going to work either way. So what I'm going to do is, after resetting submit button dot, now we're going to set attributes. Now attributes takes in two parameters. The first one is the attribute you want to set, and then the second one is the value you want to set it. Okay, let me give you an example. So we want to set attributes to color, so let's say color. Okay, want to set attribute, let me give you an example. So want to set attributes, so I can decide to do something like attribute, so I set it is, so let's see what kind of crazy result that is actually going to give us. So while this is animating, let's see, it turns into an input, you see. So right here, so that means you can change the attributes of any element. So what we want is disabled, so we want disabled, I want to set it to disabled. So let's try that again. Okay, that works, but let's come down here, you see now it has become disabled. So that is the end of this particular tutorial. Now there are different ways you can actually um improve this, and which is what I encourage after each of the sessions we have together. Okay, so I love encouraging um people to do and improve whatever it is that you've learned. So one of the things is, if you notice, okay, while clicking on this you have to be very specific and click on just this. So another thing you can do is make it that okay, whenever I just over on any of these, there's enough spacing and there's enough you know what's it called, that what's the word, no, there is enough spacing and it is set in such a way that I can just click on this and automatically this has been chosen. And combining what we learned in the last um project, so you can actually make this better and make it that there should be one question at a time. And also another thing I thought is you can include the name. So when you click want to start the app, there will be a kind of pop-up where you input your name, and then your name will be above here and telling you, oh hey Maestro, you scored 20% of 100. So that is all. I hope you enjoyed this particular video. If you do, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel.